وذكر فإن الذكرى تنفع المؤمنين.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, this is the third episode. We're doing the signs before the day of judgment, the signs of the hour, and we were still doing signs that are all around us, minor signs that are happening around us, and then we're going to transition to minor signs that are to come in the future, and then we're going to end with the 10 major signs before the day of judgment. Now, I just realized that yesterday's episode, I just had one more sign that was left in the hadith. We didn't finish the hadith. The hadith said, and it was narrated in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim by Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the hour will not be established. Or from the signs of the hour is that knowledge will be lifted, we explained that, ignorance will become prevalent, alcohol will be consumed, adultery will be widespread, men will decrease and women will increase. Now, what is behind that? There are actually a number of good explanations. One is it's possible that it would be because of wars, and typically in wars more men will die than women. So because of wars, and we know towards the end of time there will be a lot of killing and a lot of wars, so then men will be decreasing in number and women will increase in number. That's one. Two, for whatever reason, people will just give birth to more women. And there's some very, very interesting articles on and theories from scientists as to why more women are being born. So, and no one knows for sure, but there's some very interesting theories and a good back and forth. Nice, research if you want to look into that. But either way, whether it's natural causes or due to deaths and what have you, or some virus comes that will just target men. For example, the nagging virus only kills men. Anyways, just kidding. Until the hadith says, until there is a single man to 50 women. Single man to 50, or the hadith actually says that the 50 women will have one qayyim, which was one person who looks after them. We're not talking about husbands here, but one person will have 50 female family members to look after. They're all under his care or in the same house or what have you. Alright, that was that hadith. I mentioned a ton of things. A lot of them are happening and a lot of them are just gradually increasing. But again, every time you look at the signs before the day of judgment, there's just a testimony to the truthfulness of the Prophet ﷺ and that he was a genuine prophet. Otherwise, how would he know all this in the future? Alright, this one, simple. Imam Ahmad mentions from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud that the Prophet ﷺ said, indeed before the coming of the hour there will be amongst the things false testimony. And we'll see people, we said taking or giving a testimony, especially an oath by other than the name of Allah, or by the name of Allah, and swearing by Allah that this is the case and that you're speaking the truth, it's a great sin. And giving an oath, a false testimony, is a huge, huge sin. But this will increase towards the end of time more and more so. Alright. Look at this one. This is mentioned in Sahih Muslim. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu narrated, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the hour will not be established until inheritance is not distributed. So, if we were to contemplate together, what would cause inheritance to not be distributed? Could be a lot of things, right? Number one, it could be that these were those times that we mentioned where there's so much killing that people separate from each other. In one hadith, I think we're coming to it, that there will be so much killing, I think we're coming to it, that people will be strangers to one another. So this guy takes his family out in the desert, and this guy goes out to the prairie, and then when someone dies, their inheritance doesn't reach everybody else because people are so spread out during these times of fitan. That's one possible explanation. Another possible explanation is that this is towards a time when there is so much ignorance of the religion that people don't even know how to split the inheritance. So the inheritance will not be distributed. That's very plausible as well. Or it could be that people don't care. Okay? Could be that people don't care. about splitting the inheritance. This is a true story that happened right here in America, where a Muslim man was on his deathbed. So he gathered all his wealth and he gave his daughter this much and his son that much. So someone told him, what about the distribution that Allah mentioned in the Qur'an? He said, no, I want to be fair to my children. Just think of that phrase. He said, no, I want to be fair to my children. Before I die, I want to be fair. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, astaghfirullah, what Allah decreed and mentioned in the Qur'an, that's not fair. That's unjust. So I want to make sure I'm just. Yani, astaghfirullah, it's like saying, I'm going to be more just than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he died upon that. So he just didn't care. Or it could also be that this is towards that time when there's so much treachery and deception and theft that someone would just steal and just take everyone else's inheritance. Very possible. Oh, let's go back to this one here. Indeed, from the signs of the hour, this is in Sunan Abu Dawood, is the lifting of knowledge. Lifting of knowledge, we mentioned that. Prevalence of ignorance, drinking of alcohol, and increase of adultery. وَيَظْهَرْ الزِّنَا. So drinking of alcohol, like I was saying last episode, you look at how many Muslim countries and look at how many of them where you could just consume alcohol or purchase alcohol. We have, every time someone mentions, I don't know, should I mention countries or not? But in some countries they just ban it by law, but that law is not enforced. So do they count? If the law says you cannot buy alcohol, but if you go buy it and people are selling it, no one is bothering with this law. It doesn't count. So most Muslim countries, unfortunately, the majority of them, actually almost all of them, except for like a small 1%, it's actually less than 1% of Muslim countries actually ban alcohol. And I'll tell you an interesting alcohol experience, well, not an alcohol experience, that sounds really bad, but when I was in Malaysia, we were in this big kind of grocery store or what have you, and then there's a security guard standing in front of the wine and alcohol section. So I said, what does this guy do? Like, why is he guarding the alcohol? They said he's not guarding the alcohol. He's there to stop Muslims from going into the alcohol section. Because if you know anything about Malaysia, there's a Chinese and an Indian population that are not Muslim also. So they want to purchase their alcohol. So the guy stands there and he stops Muslims from going to the alcohol section. And people can sell alcohol, but if they sell it to a Muslim, they get in deep trouble. So the question is, you might be thinking, how will they know if someone is Muslim or not? It's almost down to race, meaning if you're Malay, there's almost 100% chance you're Muslim, almost, right? And if someone is Chinese, there's so this guy basically is stopping them by race. And if he sees a Malay coming towards the alcohol, he's like, excuse me, no alcohol for you. If he sees a Chinese guy, he'll let him pass. If he sees a Hindu guy, he'll let him pass. Wallahu alam, but that's basically, you will get in trouble if you sell alcohol to a Muslim in Malaysia. So even though it is sold, it is not sold to Muslims. So could they count? I believe it would count. Wallahu alam. Anyways, let's keep going here. I've got some interesting ones for you. This is a very easy to understand. Imam al-Tabarani rahimahullah mentions from Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, indeed from the signs of the hour is the appearance of sudden death. Maut al-Faj'ah or al-Faj'ah also is correct. So towards the end of time there will be more sudden death. And this makes sense from a number of viewpoints. Like number one, the instruments now that we have that can cause sudden death are so many as opposed to 1,400 years ago. Like for you to die suddenly was so uncommon unless you just fell off a mountain or fell off the roof of the house and stuff. But now we can fall off the mountain and the roof of the house, and add to that, get hit by bus number 3 on your way to work. Car accidents are killing like 10,000 car accidents a day in America. So there are many car accidents. These are things that just, I'll go to the store, I'll be right back. Boom, the guy just doesn't come back. Otherwise he was perfectly healthy. And of course we've got crime and guns. People, and guns are very instant. I don't think we can argue that. All these increase sudden death. And sudden meaning no one saw death coming. Like someone was healthy completely and then you saw them in the morning and they tell you in the afternoon, oh, so-and-so died. And this happens so much, and you don't even have to be involved in gang-related activity or drug activity. There was a Muslim family and they were just like out in the street and other people were fighting. And then the young man just asked the other guys, like, is everything okay? And that guy just shot him right in the face. He just asked, is everything okay? So anyways, sudden death. We said car accidents, and then of course we've got other things, heart attacks and all these diseases now that are just causing people to drop dead. And that didn't exist as much at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, possibly because they ate good food. Allahu Akbar. All right. And this is the hadith I was alluding to before, that, or actually last episode, that there will be killing and strangeness to the extent that a person almost knows no one. There will be killing and strangeness to the extent that a person almost knows nobody. So that means there's so much killing that people have to be distant from each other and they don't interact and visit and go down to town and talk and all that. And it's interesting how quickly faces change. I remember I used to live across the street from this masjid for about 2 years or something like that, or maybe it was a year, I can't remember. But I just knew every face in that masjid because we'd go 5 times a day. And then I came to it, I think it was 2 years later or something, or 3 years later, I think maybe 3 years later, I could not recognize a single face. Like, you'll be surprised how much and how quickly people move around and shift and go to other places. So imagine there is some kind of fitna where there's a lot of killing, so people separate themselves. 5 years, 6 years, you're with your family away from everybody else. When people meet again, they barely recognize each other. That's what that is referring to. Let's see here. We can explain this hadith or this sign with 2 other hadith. One of them is like what I just explained. In Sahih Bukhari, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said, there will come a time when the best property of a Muslim will be sheep, which he will take to the tops of mountains and the places of rainfall so as to flee with his religion from the afflictions. Meaning, people now there's so many trials happening that a person takes what he can and he just goes away from the trials and the tests and afflictions. That's one. The other hadith is narrated by Tirmidhi rahimahullah, this hadith is talking about people actually breaking away from the community. And it's a really beautiful hadith, and it's important for us to always remember a hadith like this. The Prophet ﷺ said that الذي يخالط الناس ويصبر على أذاهم خير من الذي لا يخالط الناس ولا يصبر على أذاهم. The one who mixes or mingles with people, interacts with people, and is patient upon their harm. There's something beautiful here. We see the fact that you interact, there's going to be harm. Why? Because there will be miscommunication, misunderstandings. There has to be some kind of harm. The fact that you interact with people, there will be harm, either from you to them or from them to you. So, الَّذِي يُخَالِطُ النَّاسِ, and by virtue of them mixing with the people, this is the result, it has to happen. وَيَصْبِرْ عَلَى أَذَاهُمْ, and is patient upon their harm, is better than the person who does not mingle with people, he does not mix with them, he does not interact with them, and is not patient upon their harm. And you see this a lot happening in the community. You'll see someone who never shows up to the masjid. Oh, I just live across the street, why don't you show up? Oh, I came here a couple of times and I had some problems with people, or some people said something nasty to me. You would have been a better person to keep coming back and being patient with their harm. It is never, and there's no excuse for staying away from the Muslim community because, there's some mean woman here or there's some rude guy in the musalla. First of all, you harm yourself when you stay away from the house of Allah Azza wa Jal, and the jama'ah and the remembrance of Allah and the classes and all that stuff. That's the first thing. The second thing, you're just already not being the better person you could have been by not being patient. You know, our religion is just so built upon us congregating. We congregate daily, weekly, yearly, and sometimes beyond a year, like the eclipse prayers. It's all about community and being together. And the Prophet ﷺ gave us analogies of how the wolf will eat from the sheep that strays away from the flock. So it's about being together. So it's not an excuse that, oh, there's one rude guy or 4 rude people in the masjid, I'm not going to go back. Your job is to come back and to be patient. So that explanation of people breaking away from the community, and that hadith is really beautiful. People really should remember it. And a lot of times, the good people will leave because, oh, there's some rude person in the masjid. So then what happens? If just think forward, then we'll have masajid just filled with the rude people who sent the good people away who didn't want to be patient. Then is that even appropriate that that's what we have left in the masajid? So all of us as a community, we're to pardon, forgive one another, and keep coming back to the house of Allah. Some people will disappear for months. What happened? Oh, that sister was rude to me. But this is Allah's house. It's not her house. Keep coming back and be patient and make friends, make peace. You know, that's why the Prophet ﷺ described the hypocrite. When it's just a beautiful description, not beautiful in that sense, but beautiful and accurate in the sense that it's accurate. وَإِذَا خَاصَمَ فَجَرْ. When the hypocrite, when he has a disagreement with you, he takes it to the next level, to the level of fujur. Whereas the believers, they have a misunderstanding. Next day, they apologize to each other. Even if you're not the one who's mistaken, extend your hand out and make some kind of apology, make up, peace, and that's it. Oh, I abandoned the masjid for 3 months because this person said something about the color of my mish'ar. All right. Anyways, that's what it's about. It's about forgiveness. It's just really, one more time, it's beautiful that whoever interacts with people and is patient upon their harm. It's almost like saying it's guaranteed. If you interact, there will be harm. Then be patient upon it. That's the answer. You don't leave good, you don't leave the masjid, you don't never make up with them, right? And if you leave the masjid for 3 months, that means you haven't spoken to them for 3 months. You're avoiding them for 3 months. You're not supposed to avoid your brother for 3 days. All right. Next one. Narrated by Imam Ahmad rahimahullah. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma said, the Prophet ﷺ said, there will be towards the end of my ummah men, and of course it can mean women also, who will ride upon chairs or saddles or chariots similar to our beasts. It will take them to the doors of masajid, to the doors of mosques. What do you think it's talking about? They'll ride on these saddles or these chairs that will take them to the door of the masjid. Yeah, I think everybody got it. Next, some people said, with the chairs translation, they said it's like wheelchair. You've seen a Muslim go to the masjid on a wheelchair. Sitting on a chair takes him to the door of the masjid. Or, most likely, wallahu a'lam, it could be talking about cars, right? Cars, you're essentially sitting on a chair in a car and it brings you to the door of the masjid. And we use cars to come to the masjid all the time. And sometimes if you don't have a car, you can't come to the masjid. Now, but again, I don't want to be guilty of what I mentioned in the introduction to this series, that we always interpret things based on our time. What if some invention is going to come that will be more prevalent, and I'm not going to say flying chair or something weird, but what if something else is going to come in the future, and that will be the means of transportation, and that's what people will use to get to the masjid? It's possible. But does this hadith right now fit our world and its chairs that are, or cars that are bringing people to the masjid? Well, it's very, very possible. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. All right. Next one. I've chosen these, right? Because there's so many of these. And there's so many repetitions also. And make sure we cover ones that are kind of new. How about a simple one? The hour will not be established until a man kills his neighbor, brother, and father. Okay. Well, what am I going to say? The Menendez brothers, right? Or it's common. We see that a lot, and but it will keep increasing. This is in Sahih al-Bukhari. Anas ibn Malik narrates, the Prophet ﷺ said, there will come upon the people years of deception, in which the liar is believed and the truthful one is belied. The treacherous one is trusted, and the trustworthy one is believed to be treacherous. And the ruwaybidah will speak. And the ruwaybidah will speak. He was asked, and who are the ruwaybidah? And they said, and the Prophet responded, the fool, يعني الرجل التافه, the fool who speaks about the general affairs of the people. Okay. But this hadith is wonderful, and it's so happening. The ruwaybidah, these are just people who are foolish, worthless, even mentally, they're just foolish, and yet they're speaking and they're being heard. They're speaking and they're being heard. There's so many examples of this, right? There is, and if you just look at how when an actor or a singer or some musician makes a statement, or some rapper makes a statement, it falls upon more ears than, a scholar or a Supreme Court justice or anybody of that sort. But anyways, it's interesting how there was an interview with this soccer player, okay? And they're asking him, how are you? And first of all, I don't even understand why you would have an interview with any athlete, because it's all the same. Why are you asking a soccer player, what are you trying to do this season? What do you think he's trying to do? I'm going to try to dribble the ball, make it towards their net, and shoot it in. That's it. Take any sport, and there's absolutely no need for interviews in any sport. It's always the same. Basketball. What's your plan? Well, we're going to give it 110%. They're always giving it 110% for some reason. They're never giving it 90% or 100%, just 110%. It's always the same interview. I don't understand why people interview these athletes. It's not like they're going to tell you about a top secret maneuver that nobody knows. Everybody knows the rules of the game. I don't even, okay. So I'm just ranting on why do people even interview athletes? There's no I in team. We're going to give it 110%. Just nonsense. All right? Anyways, so put that aside. They're interviewing this guy. He's a soccer player. And again, he's just going over the same basic thing. We're going to give it our best and this and that. Then, and this is not even this is a true story. Towards the end, the interviewer, the reporter just suddenly says, and what's your view on multiple marriage? Why? Why are you asking this? First of all, why that topic of all things? That's one. Two, why are you asking this guy such a random question and something is about religion after, who cares? You're asking about soccer and he's telling you what you already know, that they're going to try to shoot and score more than the other team. But then suddenly, randomly, what do you think of multiple marriage? And he's like, well, I think if it hurts the feelings of the first wife, nobody should. Feelings of the first wife? Anyways, the point is, this just people who are foolish, not qualified to speak about something else, suddenly they're speaking and they're heard and their opinion is sought after and people care about their opinion. But that's exactly what the Prophet ﷺ described in this hadith. If you want to get upset, this is a true story that happened in a country that will go unnamed, Egypt. And there was this lady, this actress, and she was asked to critique all the different Muslim groups and movements, and she starts critiquing them, how they make people hate their religion. Like, what do you know? Like, just for years, she just plays different roles. One time a very despicable, haram role. One time she's doing something else haram. And for years, for decades, that's all we know of this person, just acting that this guy's her husband and doing haram and all that. Now she's asked to critique all the Islamic groups and the Islamic movements and the Islamic da'wah, and she said, yeah, they made people hate the religion. Like, what do you know about the religion? So one of the scholars responded to her, and he said, basically saying, like, who are you to comment on anything? And all we see is you acting out these roles of haram and bad and all that. So who are you to comment on anything? Then she sued him for saying that about her. Like, how dare he critique her? But she can critique Islamic movements and the da'wah, and she has no knowledge of that. And he has proof of what she's saying, or what he's saying about her. Anyways, she sues him, she wins, he goes to jail. that's not an example of a ruwaybidah, foolish people speaking, then I don't know what is. Alright, this one's interesting. In Musnad Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, the Prophet ﷺ said, the knots of Islam will be untied knot by knot. So all these things that are important in Islam, they'll be taken apart one by one. The first to be untied will be the rule, and the last will be the prayer. What does it mean, the rule? Meaning ruling by the Sharia, ruling by the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first one that will be untied. And that is so true. Again, let's go back to our 60 or so Muslim countries, and how many of them rule by the Sharia? What do you think? 0, 1. You know, sometimes we used to have big debates in class when we'd mention this hadith. Some people would say one country, some people would say 0, none of them. You know, I believe it's at least 1 right now. Some people think it's 2, but the point is that it's sad that we're debating 1 or 0. That's sad. And so the first thing, the Sharia goes. Rule by the Sharia disappears. And then other things start to slowly disappear. But the last thing that will disappear will be the Salah. Like alhamdulillah, you see a lot of people praying in different parts of the world. There's still people that stuck to that. But Sharia ruling the land, that's the law of the land, gone completely. Or in some countries they just put it, they only want the Sharia when it's divorce and marriage, we bring out the Sharia. Okay? It's something else, business dealings, politics, okay, let's put the Sharia back under the rug, and we'll use whatever else we feel like using at this point. But it's just so true, and it's so amazing that the Prophet ﷺ spoke this 1400 years ago, and it's happening exactly as he sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned. Let's take the last one for today. The Prophet ﷺ said, narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِ مُحَمَّدٍ بِيَدِهِ, by the one in whose hands is the soul of Muhammad. لَا تَقُومُ السَّاعَةِ حتى يهلك الوعول. The hour will not be established until the wu'ul are destroyed. ويظهر التحوت, and the tuhut appear or ascend or emerge. فقالوا يا رسول الله وما الوعول وما التحوت. They said, Ya Rasulullah, what are al-wu'ul and what are al-tuhut? Like, what are these terms? What does that mean? قال صلى الله عليه وسلم الوعول وجوه الناس وأشرافهم. The wu'ul are the nobility and the best of the people. وَالتُّحُوتِ الَّذِينَ كَانُوا تَحْتَ أَقْدَامِ النَّاسِ, and the tuhut are those that were under people's shoes, downtrodden basically. The people that were downtrodden, لَا يُعْلَمْ بِهِمْ, يعني nobody knows of them, nobody knows who they are. They were just under people's shoes, the downtrodden, and then they ascend, and the nobility and those nobles, they're the ones who are pushed down. It's kind of very similar to what I was saying earlier with the not just the ruwaybidah, but similar to that, where or Luka' ibn Luka', where you'll find someone who is just unworthy and they're prosperous, or they're listened to, or they're heard, or they're the ones who ascend in society, while the important ones, the nobility, the people who are noble, people who actually have something to contribute, they're the ones who disappear. So they'll be destroyed. And again, you know, you can see this if you just look at the most popular people in America, and where are they as far as being academics or being lawmakers or people who have some kind of positive input towards people's lives. Look at those most followed on Twitter or Instagram or what have you, and it'll just be someone who prevents some cheap type of entertainment, you know, some rapper or some musician who offers nothing of value. All right? And I don't listen to rap, but I know what's going on. I know there are some rap songs that are nothing. The whole song is just how to stash the drugs away and how to sell it without getting caught. Okay, I can do that with any other genre as well. Okay, so it's not just rap music. All of it, just all these performers, artists, entertainers, so much of what they're saying is just nothing but garbage. And then again, I've just picked Supreme Court justices. Can people even mention 3 of them? Can people mention 3 of them? But they'll mention the 3 stooges by name. Anyways, that's outdated, isn't it? Alright, anyways, we'll stop here. Next time we're going to keep looking at some of the minor signs around us, and then shift or move over to the minor signs that are going to happen still haven't happened, are going to happen, and then we move on to the major signs before the Day of Judgment. Jazakumullah khairan for your attentive listening and for tuning in. Sallallahu barak ala Muhammad. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.